My dear friend and my rabbinical school classmate, Rabbi Aaron Brusso, taught a text to a group of rabbis about 3 weeks ago. And for some reason or another, this text landed right where it needed to for me. It was from the Talmud, from the Babylonian Talmud of Bava Metzia, page 29b. And what it explains on that page of the Gemara is a form of a lost and found that existed. It existed outside of the temple. And in essence, what would happen is that on the pilgrimage festivals, the festivals that people would make their trek to Jerusalem and to the temple, the people who had lost things would go to this station outside the temple and look for what they've lost. And the people who found things would bring it to that same station and say, "This is what I found." And people could claim that which they have lost. One of my favorite events in the academic year as my kids were little was going to parent-teacher conferences. I barely paid any attention to what any teacher had to say about my kid. But what I did do is I poured through the tables that were set up outside at every parent-teacher conference and found the lunch boxes and the sweaters and the sweatshirts and the yarmulkes that we had worked hard for and paid for that my kids had mysteriously lost. And every parent-teacher conference, it was there that they were repatriated to our home. What we learned with the destruction of the temple is that more than the ability to make sacrifices were lost. Of course, with the destruction of the temple, we lost our primacy to Jerusalem. And with the destruction of the temple, people could not give different sacrifices of thanksgiving or requests, or for holidays of the additional sacrifices. But something else was lost that is often overlooked. And that is that lost and found counter that was part of the temple of old. What if someone had something that was particularly close to them? What if it was an heirloom or a charm or something that mattered significantly? And they wanted it back. And their hope was that when it came around for Sukkot, since last Shavuot, that it would be there that they found it. But with the temple gone, it didn't exist. The world that we live in has changed dramatically in one sunset and sunrise. Our world changed dramatically from October 6th to October 7th and all the days that ensued. And I believe that our foundation and most of the things that we had held close to were violently shattered and lost on that fateful morning and the days that ensued. Things that we thought, beliefs that we held, friends and reliances that we had trusted, evaporated. They were gone. And we found ourselves asking, how do we get it back? You and I, we had this belief, this foundation, that no matter what, Israel always had a military edge, and its citizens would always be defended. None would be lost in great detail. You and I, we believed that the days of Jews hiding in attics, that was for Eastern Europe, World War II, but those days were long gone. You and I believed that no matter what, the army would show up in minutes in Israel to defend its citizens, and that no one would be left to fend for themselves. You and I believed that when we marched for those who were downtrodden in our community, whether it was BLM or LGBTQ or stopping any form of Asian hate, that those people would come and stand shoulder to shoulder with us in our moment of need. And instead, we heard crickets. Friendships that rabbis had worked on for decades with non-Jewish clergy and neighbors. Some who were Muslim, some who were Christian, some who were Quakers, some who were Hindus and Buddhists, and seemingly none of them had a telephone after October 7th. Because it wasn't only me that didn't hear from any of them. All of my colleagues had that same radio silence. And friendships that we thought we had with people around the water cooler or that we grabbed lunch with, they didn't have the courage to speak up when we needed them, even though we were always side by side with them. I have a list that can continue on, sadly, and so do you. Those foundations were shattered. And I feel like from the teaching from my friend Aaron, I want to go up to some table or right here or to God and claim all of those things that I have lost this year. And I want back. And I didn't even begin to mention the citizens that were lost, the people that were taken, and the hostages that are being held. I'm looking to have a sense of safety and security back for my kids and your kids on college campuses. I want to claim back at that table the word Zionist from all of those evil people who hijacked it. I'm looking for the Israeli army to show its deterrence and its strength like it has in the last few months, and to really mean never again. The prayer that we're about to utter, Hineni, is a prayer at its essence written by an unnamed leader of a service, and the core of the prayer is about vulnerability. It's about losing all that you have. What are the times that we feel most vulnerable in life? It's when we lie in a hospital bed and something that we take for granted and our physical abilities is removed from us. Or perhaps it's because someone who's close to us is no longer with us, or a foundation we had is removed. That is what makes us vulnerable. When we thought we could trust on leaning back, and we find out nothing's there. Some would say that that's the hardest time. But I'm going to share with you a quote from J.K. Rowling. She said it was in her life when she leaned back and had no one there, when she was absolutely at her most vulnerable, when she hit rock bottom, that she said she felt like she finally had the foundation that would help her for the rest of her life. I would take that quote and I would change one word. And I would say that through this time of incredible loss, the friendships, the relationships, the connections I want to earn back must be earnest and sincere ones. I don't want friends that will stand by my side when things are good and then run for the hills when things are difficult. I don't want friends who only tell me the things I want to hear, but sometimes tell me the things I need to hear. And I want people that can restore my sense of faith in humanity and community, not because it's politically expedient, but because it is morally correct. I would say that it is this time of vulnerability that gives us the foundation for what can be not the rest of our lives, but the best of our lives. As we offer Hineni, let us feel that sense of loss and vulnerability, and let it serve as a foundation for that which we will grow from today and tomorrow.